Live broadcasts bring us closer than ever before, sharing laughs, triumphs, and drama in real time. But sometimes, they also capture heartbreak no one saw coming. In this video, we explore 5 shocking moments when streamers tragically died while live. These aren't just viral clips, they're real stories that left viewers stunned and raised serious questions about safety in the era of being always online. It was September 14th, 2020, in Aba, a Tibetan autonomous region in Sichuan province, China, when tragedy struck during what began as a routine stream. Lamu, a 30-year-old Tibetan video blogger, had become a beloved figure online. With over 780,000 followers on Douyin, China's version of TikTok, she captivated her audience by sharing glimpses of Tibetan rural life, cooking traditional meals, foraging in the mountains, lip-syncing songs, always dressed in traditional clothing, without makeup, and radiating authenticity. Her content was simple, yet sincere, and it resonated with people across the country. But behind her bright smile was a darker story. Lamu had been trapped in an abusive marriage. In June 2020, she finally divorced her husband, Tang, after years of mistreatment. Even after the separation, he continued harassing her, demanding that she come back to him. Lamu stood firm in her decision, unaware of the danger still lurking. On the morning of September 14th, she posted her final video, singing a traditional Tibetan song. Later that same day, she went live again, chatting casually with her followers. But suddenly, the stream went dark. What her viewers didn't know was that Tang had entered her home with a bucket of gasoline. Off camera, but still live, he doused Lamu with the liquid and set her on fire. Even though the screen stayed black, the horrifying sounds of chaos and Lamu's screams were broadcast to thousands of viewers who could do nothing. Neighbors rushed to help, managed to extinguish the flames, and called emergency services. Lamu was hospitalized with burns over 90% of her body. For 2 agonizing weeks, she fought for her life. But on September 30th, she died. Her death shocked China and the world. Her followers raised funds for her treatment and flooded her Douyin account with messages of grief and outrage. Tang was arrested shortly after the attack and later sentenced to death. The court condemned his actions as a cruel, calculated revenge for her decision to leave him. Lamu's death exposed a larger problem: domestic violence in China. Although the country officially criminalized domestic violence in 2016, critics note that the law is riddled with loopholes, failing to cover unmarried couples, same-sex relationships, or emotional abuse. In many rural areas, violence is still seen as a private matter, discouraging victims from seeking help. During her marriage, Lamu reportedly asked authorities for protection, but her pleas were dismissed as mere family issues. That lack of support cost her her life. In 2020, China introduced a 30-day cooling-off period for couples seeking divorce, supposedly to reduce impulsive separations. But for abuse victims like Lamu, this means being trapped with their abuser for longer. A 2013 study by the All China Women's Federation reported that 1 in 4 married women had experienced domestic violence. The problem is even more severe in rural areas like Aba, where traditional values run deep and women have fewer resources. After her death, activists and followers turned Lamu's Douyin page into a digital memorial. Her videos, once a celebration of culture and everyday life, became symbols of strength, pain, and the urgent need for change. Some local governments began implementing measures to prevent similar tragedies, such as databases to register known abusers. But many say it's not enough. Lamu's life was full of grace, resilience, and authenticity. Her death was a devastating loss, but it sparked conversations China could no longer ignore. Her story continues to inspire efforts for justice, safety, and real protection for those trapped in cycles of violence. It was January 27th, 2021, in the quiet town of Smolin, Russia. Around 6 p.m., a familiar face appeared on a controversial YouTube channel called First Step. That face belonged to 60-year-old Yuri Dushechkin, affectionately nicknamed Grandpa by his online followers. Yuri was no stranger to the channel. He had become a regular, known for his warm personality, Saitwer, amid the chaos of each broadcast. But sadly, that night would be the last time viewers saw him alive. Yuri was participating in another live stream in front of about 150 people. The format was the same one that had made the channel infamous: dangerous stunts, reckless challenges, and viewer donations to push the limits further each time. But this time, everything took a tragic turn. During the stream, Yuri was encouraged by the host and the audience to drink an alarming amount of vodka, around 1.5 liters. As the broadcast went on, his condition began to deteriorate. His speech slurred, his body swayed, and he soon collapsed while the camera kept rolling. Most disturbing of all, his motionless body continued streaming live for quite some time. Some viewers began to worry and asked for help in the chat. Others didn't take it seriously, believing it was part of the show. When emergency services finally arrived at his apartment on Udorov Street, it was already too late. Yuri had died. The channel was run by a 39-year-old man known online as JEA and had gained fame for so-called trash streams. These shows often feature vulnerable people, struggling with addiction, poverty, or homelessness, coaxed into performing degrading, risky, or outright dangerous acts in exchange for viewer donations. The more extreme the content, the more money it brought in. And Yuri, sadly, had become one of the best-known figures in this exploitative ecosystem. Over time, the pressure to keep the show entertaining meant pushing the boundaries further. The chaos of that night, blaring music, a messy apartment, loud voices, hid the real danger Yuri was in. As he drank more vodka, the audience egged him on, either not realizing or not wanting to admit how serious the situation had become. When he collapsed, there was a moment of shock. While some in the chat called for someone to dial emergency services, others kept sending messages and donations as if it were still a game. Paramedics eventually arrived, but the damage was done. Preliminary reports suggested that Yuri died from alcohol poisoning, though a full investigation was launched to determine exactly what happened and who should be held responsible. The backlash was swift. The Russian Regional Investigative Committee opened a criminal case, accusing the stream's organizers of negligence leading to his death. Neighbors also stated they had filed complaints for years about noise, drunk guests, and disorder coming from the apartment where the filming took place, but nothing had changed. Even Russian Senator Alexei Pushkov spoke out, condemning trash streams as a dangerous trend and calling for legislation to prevent tragedies. He argued that it was time to rein in exploitative content that profited from human suffering. Yuri's death shocked the online community and shed light on the dark side of digital entertainment. It wasn't just an isolated tragic event, it was a wake-up call. Critics began demanding that platforms like YouTube take stronger action against harmful content and protect vulnerable people from being exploited on camera. As the investigation continued, one thing became clear: the culture that allowed this to happen, where human dignity is sacrificed for views and donations, must change before more lives are lost. It was a warm summer afternoon in Guozhou, China, on July 20th, 2021. Xiao Chumei, a 23-year-old crane operator, had just finished another long day at a construction site in Jiangxi province. Known for her small stature, striking presence, and contagious energy, Xiao stood out in a male-dominated field. But what truly made her unique wasn't just her job, it was how she shared it with the world. Xiao had gained over 100,000 followers on Douyin by posting videos of her life at great heights inside the crane cab. She gave her audience an inside look at the daily reality of her work, all from the dizzying heights of the urban skyline. Her content was uplifting, always with a smile, and her videos challenged gender and work stereotypes. More than an influencer, she was an inspiration. That afternoon, she decided to record one last video before heading home. Her followers were already used to her cheerful tone and playful style. Around 5:40 p.m., most of the workers had already left. Xiao set up her phone, smiled at the camera, and began dancing and talking as usual, full of life. Suddenly, everything changed. The video turned blurry. Metal beams crossed in front of the screen, and a sharp scream rang out. It was Xiao's scream. She had fallen from nearly 50 meters high. Emergency services arrived quickly, but it was too late. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Initial reports suggested she was recording at the moment of the fall, which led many to think she was distracted, but her family denied it. They said she was always careful and professional, and that she kept her phone in her bag while working. According to them, the fall happened because she missed a step while climbing down from the crane, a tragic accident, not a careless mistake. News of her death shocked her followers and social media at large. Many couldn't believe it. Some shared her final moments online, which sparked a debate about the ethics of spreading such traumatic footage. Her devastated family held a private funeral. Following local tradition, her ashes were placed under a small umbrella on a table. Simple, quiet, and deeply moving. Authorities confirmed the incident and launched an investigation into safety measures at the site, though no further details were released. The tragedy raised concerns about safety in high-risk professions and about how social media influences behavior at work. Xiao's rise to internet fame was built on authenticity. She didn't pretend to be someone she wasn't. Her content was real, relatable, and refreshing. She showed the world how to balance a tough job with the joys of everyday life, all while raising two small children. Her videos were a reminder that crane operators aren't just part of the skyline. They're essential. Although her family insisted her death wasn't related to social media, the tragedy was compared to that of Sophia Chung, an influencer who died after falling while trying to take a photo at a waterfall. Xiao Chumei's story became a painful reminder of how fragile life can be. Her vibrant spirit, full of light and determination, was extinguished in an instant. While her followers mourned an online icon, her loved ones grieved the loss of a daughter, a mother, and a wife. It was May 16th, 2024, in Suffolk, Virginia, a day that would end an unimaginable tragedy. Raleigh Freeman III, known to his fans as the rapper Rio Huncho, was only 17. Full of talent, charisma, and ambition, he was building a name for himself in the music world. With nearly 29,000 followers on Instagram and a growing presence on Spotify, Rio was on his way to something big. That evening, he went live from his home, casually chatting with fans. It wasn't unusual. He often used those moments to connect with his followers and show his personality beyond the music. But this time, everything turned devastating. During the stream, Rio picked up a firearm he had previously shown in photos and videos. This gun had a green laser and a flashlight. At first, he handled it like a prop. He waved it around, seemed to take the safety off, and in an act of overconfidence, pointed it at his head. He made a bold statement and pulled the trigger. A loud shot rang out. The phone fell. The stream ended abruptly. Many viewers were in shock, unsure if what they had seen was real. Some thought it was a macabre joke or a stunt, but the truth came out soon after. Rio had shot himself accidentally. Emergency services took him to the hospital, but it was already too late. He was pronounced dead shortly after. Authorities confirmed the shot was accidental and self-inflicted. The news shook the local community and his online followers. Rio wasn't just a promising rapper, he was a son, a student, and a friend. His mother, Monica Savage, a single mother who had poured her life into raising him, was devastated. In an interview, she spoke through tears about the moment she found him and her wish that she could bring him back. After the tragedy, his cousin started a GoFundMe campaign to help cover funeral expenses. The campaign reflected the family's grief and Monica's deep love for her son. Support poured in from fans and strangers. At school, teachers and classmates mourned his passing. His teacher, Kara Dorsey, shared words online, encouraging students to honor Rio's legacy by working toward their dreams. There was also a balloon release, a colorful, emotional tribute to a life cut far too short. Rio's accidental death reignited conversations about gun safety. Authorities investigated how he ended up with a loaded weapon in his possession. Experts emphasized the importance of education and safe storage of firearms, especially in homes with teenagers. They noted that simple safety measures can save lives. Rio's music, with songs like Money Getta and DOA, remains as a reminder of his talent and potential. Though his life was short, his story stands as a powerful lesson about the importance of caution, awareness, and protecting our youth. It was July 14th, 2024 in China, when 24-year-old Pan Xiaoting prepared for what would tragically be her final mukbang stream. Known for her jaw-dropping binge-eating challenges, Pan had built a loyal community that tuned in to watch her consume enormous amounts of food. That day, her table was overflowing, 10 kilos of food, from fried chicken and seafood to chocolate cake. Thousands were watching. Pan's rise to fame was far from glamorous. She started out working as a waitress, barely getting by. Everything changed when she discovered mukbang, a viral South Korean trend where creators live stream themselves eating large quantities in front of an audience. At first, it was just a hobby, but her charisma and willingness to take on extreme food challenges quickly earned her more fans. Soon, she quit her job to become a full-time content creator. She rented a professional studio, invested in her streaming setup, and it paid off. Donations and gifts flooded her streams. She became one of China's most popular mukbang influencers, but behind her success was a dangerous price. Her challenges became increasingly extreme, some lasting up to 10 hours, with absurd amounts of food. Her parents were worried. They begged her to slow down, telling her no amount of money was worth risking her health. But Pan believed she had it under control. Unfortunately, she didn't. She had already been hospitalized several times for internal bleeding and digestive issues. Still, she kept going, driven by her fans' expectations and the pressure to top her last feat. On the day of her final stream, everything seemed normal. Pan smiled at the camera, chatted with her followers, and began devouring the mountain of food in front of her. Fans cheered her on in the comments, but as the hours passed, her pace slowed, her breathing grew heavy, and she looked uncomfortable. Worried, viewers urged her to stop, but Pan, determined to finish the challenge, kept eating. Then, in the middle of the stream, she collapsed. The chat erupted in panic. Viewers begged for someone to help her. Emergency services were called, but by the time they arrived, it was too late. Pan was pronounced dead at the scene. The autopsy revealed the details. Her stomach had ruptured due to the massive amount of food, causing internal bleeding and fatal complications. Experts explained that eating so much can stretch the stomach to dangerous levels, compress major blood vessels, and place enormous pressure on the heart. Pan's death reignited debate over mukbang culture. What started as a form of companionship for people eating alone had turned into a spectacle of excess. Even though China banned this type of content in 2021 under an anti-food waste law, many creators, including Pan, continued streaming these risky challenges. Her passing left fans devastated. Some mourned her deeply, while others questioned how this kind of content is still allowed. Pan's story now serves as a grim reminder of the steep price creators can pay in the pursuit of internet fame.